station. This is the Portland Press Herald. How do you hear me?
Hello in Portland. It's great to hear you. Welcome to the space station.
Thank you. How are things looking from space today?
Well, actually, we're right over Texas at this moment, so it's kind of nice to look down and see a familiar part of the planet as we fly over it.
Great. Chris, the first question I have is for you about your recent spacewalk with Luca Parmitano that was cut short when he had water in his helmet. Can you tell me a bit about what you were doing on the spacewalk that day and how you had to react once the problem was discovered?
Sure, absolutely. The spacewalks are typically about 6.5 hours long, and we happened to be very early on in our spacewalk. It was about an hour or so into it when he first noticed some signs of water in his helmet. I happen to have his helmet right here, and the back part of it, if you can see it in the camera, has a white plastic thing, and that diverts the airflow around the back of your neck and over his face. And that's where once the water started to creep around the back of his neck is when he realized it was getting more and more and more. And through a series of questions, we realized it really wasn't sweat or any other bodily fluid, and there's a drink bag that we wear on our stomach, and it wasn't leaking from there as well. So we knew the problem was something that we needed to deal with right away. Fortunately, we were fairly close to the U.S. airlock where we go into and out of the space station. The only catch was we have these safety tethers, which are kind of like dog leashes, and mine was going around one direction of the space station and his was the other. So we had to separate for a little while, and once we got back to the airlock and I saw him again, it was I realized how quickly we needed to get the hatch open. And fortunately, Karen and our Russian colleagues were right there to repressurize the airlock and get us back in. But we were it was a important situation, but it was very timely how everything happened to get lined up to get back inside.
Great. And Chris, you grew up right here on the southern coast of Maine in York. How do you stay connected to your hometown? I heard you recently participated in York's 4 on the 4th race, but from space.
Yeah, every year on the 4th of July in my hometown they have that race, and I've been when I was home I ran it often. I've been gone for a while now in the military, but that was one way. I was really excited to participate and include the town in my mission and include the state of Maine in our mission as well. I have friends there, and my mom still lives in the same house that I grew up in there in York, so when I go back and visit, it's fun to see family and friends. And I'll be there. I land in September, and I think sometime in early November I'll be back in Maine going to a few places.
Oh, that sounds great. Karen, I was hoping you could tell us a little bit about the research you're doing while you're up there on the space station.
Yeah, we have a lot of research going on. There's probably about 150 various experiments that are going on throughout our increment. A lot of the research are things that are happening behind some of the panels that you see here, where our interaction with them will be to open them up, put in new experiments, do maintenance on the racks, and then once we close them, it's all up to the ground to control them remotely. There's everything from combustion to fluid physics to material science. And then there's other experiments where we have a little more hands-on with them, and we will actually work directly with the principal investigators on the ground, talking to them while we're doing it, and we can observe things, and they will ask us questions, and we kind of control the experiment. And there are also a lot of experiments that we're doing on ourselves, and that's one of the important things that we're doing. We're studying what happens to our bodies when we're living in a microgravity environment for the future when we travel further away from the Earth or spend more time in a microgravity environment.
And Karen, I also wanted to ask you about your use of social media while you're up there on this space station. I've seen your Twitter feed and Facebook and Pinterest posts. So how are you using that social media to stay connected with people back here on Earth?
Well, the main thing that I decided to try and do was one of my goals is to connect people who wouldn't necessarily be thinking about the space program, and I thought Pinterest would be a good way to do that. And another thing I wanted to do was to show, especially looking at the Earth, the way we see it. And so I've been trying really hard to capture photographs that look the way it does when we look out the window. And then I also like to add, try and make them as artistic as possible too. I like art and I like crafts and drawing and painting. And so when I get a picture and I look through them, I try to pick the ones that I think are the most aesthetically pleasing, and I will rotate them and crop them so that they look really nice.
And I know you both have children and spouses back here at home. Can you talk a little bit about how you stay in touch with them?
Sure. We have once a week, the ground sets up a video conference with us, usually on the weekends, where we have, like a FaceTime or Skype type of a conference with our family. It's not those programs, but it's a similar thing. And, of course, we have email that we can exchange, and recently we had to upgrade to our email, so it sends and receives more often than it used to just be a couple times a day before. Now it's more frequent. And those are the main. Oh, and we can also have an application on our computer that we can dial phone numbers and talk on the phone depending on where we are in the orbit for satellite coverage and those sort of things.
Many of us down here have seen YouTube videos of Karen washing her hair in space, or you, Chris, of shaving your head while you're up there. Why do you think people are so fascinated by these seemingly mundane tasks?
Well, I think that that's a good question, and both of us are kind of laughing because we don't really know exactly how to answer. But I think that people can very much relate to things that we all have in common with each other, and that's getting dressed, brushing your teeth, dealing with your hair or the absence of hair, and putting clothes on, and eating, all the things that every single one of us do every single day, and we're just doing those same things in a different location. So it's probably fun. That's why it's probably fun for folks to relate.
Great. And what do you miss what do you miss about being back here on Earth while you're up there?
For me, the main thing is my family. I have a husband and a small son, so I miss them a lot. And I miss being at home. Sometimes I can be kind of a homebody. I just like to be at home with my family and have my Saturday morning coffee with my husband, and of course, all the things that a person does with their children. And also running outside. I love to run, and a treadmill just isn't quite the same. We have a treadmill here that we run on, but I really, really miss running outdoors.
And Chris, what about you? Are there food items that you miss while you're up there?
Well, I do like to eat a lot, so that is one thing that very often comes into my mind. And we had just a minute ago, I was telling somebody else that a colleague of ours sent us an email just a few half hour ago of some homemade baked goods, and those looked really yummy to me. So that's one thing that I miss. And being outside, the smells of being outside, and just particularly in the summer when there's fresh mowed grass and that sort of thing, and being on the coast of Maine there and smelling that unique smell of the ocean and the rocky coast, that's the sort of thing that you can't replace up here. And those are the things that I'm looking forward to when I get back.
Okay. And any surprising facts about being up there on the space station that you think people here might be interested to hear about?
Your fingernails grow at the same rate, and we go around the Earth every 90 minutes, so we have sunlight for 45 minutes and dark for 45 minutes, and it really doesn't affect us because we turn the lights on when it's time to wake up, and we turn them off when we all say goodnight. And if we're interested in going to the window, we just look, and it happens to be day or night. So those cycles have no impact on our circadian rhythms at all. It's more of our daily work, and when we associate eating breakfast, lunch, and dinner with waking up and going to bed.
Great. Well, thank you so much for speaking with us today, and I hope the rest of your trip is a safe one, and we'll look forward to seeing you in Maine.
Thanks so much, and I look forward to getting back to Maine. Take care.
Station, this is Houston ACR. That concludes the event.
Thank you, Washington Post and Portland Press Herald. Station, we are now resuming operational audio communications.